Well, good morning. Welcome to Fridays with Francis. I was thinking the other day about some of the biblical characters, so many interesting characters in the Bible. And I was thinking this morning that maybe it'd be interesting to just think about one of those characters. Um, had quite an interesting life. It was Moses. We remember that Moses was, when he was born, his mother hid him because they were the soldiers were seeking out infants his age to kill because Pharaoh felt threatened by them. And when he got to the time that they could hide him no longer, they put him in a basket and set him afloat in the Nile River. And it was Pharaoh's daughter who discovered him. And she took him back to the palace, and Moses was raised as one of Pharaoh's own children. He was considered a prince of Egypt and perhaps even in line for the throne. But things took a sour turn for Moses. One day he had a fit of rage when he saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite or a Hebrew a slave, and he killed the Egyptian, and the end result was he ended up running for his life. He ran out through the wilderness and ended up in the land of Midian, and that's where he met Jethro. And Jethro had a daughter among many whose name was Zipporah, and Moses ended up marrying Zipporah. And the once prince of Egypt became a shepherd, tending the flocks of his father-in-law. And when we get to the third chapter of Exodus, it tells us about Moses going along, taking care of the sheep and tending to his father-in-law's herds, when suddenly he notices a burning bush up on the side of the mountain. And as he notices the bush, he keeps observing it. And the odd thing about the bush is, even though it's on fire, it is not consumed. The bush does not burn up. And so Moses draws apart from the herds and checks out this strange sight, trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And in that moment, as Moses approaches the bush, we discover that it is a theophany. It is a moment in which God reveals God's self to Moses. And God calls Moses and says, "Moses, Moses, take off your shoes, for the ground on which you stand is holy ground." And then he goes ahead and explains to Moses that he's going to become the deliverer of the Hebrews as he goes back to Egypt and petitions Pharaoh to release the Israelites. And of course, we know the story of the Exodus. The fascinating thing about this story for me is I've often wondered if that was the first time that God sent a burning bush to get Moses' attention. I think of Moses making his way along through the wilderness, tending to the sheep, as I often put it, just watching the south end of northbound sheep. Wherever they go to graze, he's there to protect them, and that has become his daily routine. One who once was the prince of Egypt has now become a sheep herder, and as he tended to the sheep, he went through the ordinary, mundane activities of every day, and he was distracted by those things. And I wonder how many times God tried to get his attention. In my mind, I see God over on the mountain saying, "Hey, Moses, Moses, here I am, Moses, look at me." I can imagine that Moses spent a lot of days walking along behind those sheep, thinking about those people he left back in Egypt. After all, his mother was there, his kinfolk were there. I'm sure that there must have been those moments, if not an actual prayer, at least a thought. God, why don't you send someone back there to set my people free? Why don't you do something, God, that will release them from the bondage and the suffering they're in the midst of? Little knowing that he was going to be the answer to his own prayer. And it is as if God appears to him in the bush and says, "Moses, I got something I need you to do. I want you to go back to Egypt, and I want you to set my people free." Well, he had lots of excuses for sure, but the thought that I wanted to leave with you today is, I wonder how many times we are distracted by the ordinary, mundane things of life, the habit and the ordinariness of our lives, that we don't notice the ways in which God seeks to get our attention. Oh, it may not be in a burning bush. It may simply be in some kind gesture that we receive from someone we don't know. It may be a miraculous thing that we discover in one way or another. It may be that God calls us to be faithful and serve him just as he called Moses. But we're so busy clicking off the things that have to happen every day that we don't look beyond the distractions. We don't look beyond the ordinariness of life, and to see that the God of the universe is present in every moment of our lives. Take a few moments and just notice the ways in which God speaks to you around your life. Many years ago, when we were serving a church in Dunn, North Carolina, we had a terrible hurricane come through, and you probably remember it if you were in this part of the world. It was Hurricane Fran. And Hurricane Fran just really tore that town up. And the parsonage we were in at the time ended up with a tree on the parsonage, and the fiber optic cables that were out there for the telephone company looked like somebody had lit a stick of dynamite in it. It looked like spaghetti instead of fiber optic cables. And we didn't have any electricity for a couple of weeks, and there were a lot of things going on. Anyhow, my wife was recovering from a very major surgery at that time, and one of the parishioners came and got us and took us to their house. They never lost power, and so we were able to stay at their house, and which was a major gift. And then we in the evening, I would go back by the house and take care of the dogs and the things that had to be taken care of. And one evening, I took one of my sons with me, and we were over there taking care of the dogs. And the only thing that you could really hear was a faint generator here and there. There were no street lights burning. And you could look up into the sky and you could see all of the thousands, millions of stars. And my son said to me, "Wow, Dad, this is weird." And I thought to myself, weird? And then it occurred to me that he was used to living in an environment where we had street lamps, and with the street lamps you didn't see that many stars, and then the sounds of the night, the creatures of the night that were making the noises through the night, the crickets and whatever. And I said to him, "Well, son, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it was in creation. And in those moments of silence, we see the miracles of God." So that's my thought for today, that in those moments of silence, you might see the miracles of God, that we might look beyond the distractions and hear the voice of God calling us by name. Well, that does it for another Fridays with Francis. I trust that you have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, go with God and go in peace.